Fans loved them, cheered for them, and even idolized them. Until that moment. From trash talk that crossed lines to actions in and out of the cage, these fighters flipped their MMA legacy in the blink of an eye. Are some falls from grace impossible to recover from? Number 1, Colby Coington. How does an unassuming fighter become one of the most divisive figures in MMA? For Colby Coington, it started when he was teetering on the edge of irrelevance. Early in his UFC career, Coington was known for his wrestling skills, but his fights rarely made headlines. He was solid but unremarkable, a name fans barely remembered after fight night. Even as he racked up wins, his performances weren't generating enough hype for the UFC to keep him around. The promotion reportedly planned to cut him after a fight in 2017, regardless of the outcome. That's when Coington made a decision. He wasn't going to leave quietly. After defeating Damian Maia in hostile territory in Brazil, Coington grabbed the mic during his post-fight interview. What came next shocked everyone. He trashed the country, calling it a dump and labeling the fans filthy animals. The move was aggressive, calculated, and completely out of character for the soft-spoken wrestler people thought they knew. His over-the-top, politically fueled antics followed soon after. MAGA hats, insults directed at opponents' families, and non-stop feuds with fellow fighters turned him into a walking headline. Public reaction was swift, but it wasn't all boos. Some fans loved the spectacle. This transformation wasn't random. Coington later admitted it was part of a deliberate effort to revamp his image and secure his spot in the UFC. It worked, but many questioned how much of the new persona was real. Whether you see him as brilliant or detestable, Covington's gamble made him unforgettable, and it reshaped the way fighters approach MMA fame.
Number 2, Chael Sonnen. What happens when a fighter's mouth becomes more famous than his skills? Chael Sonnen managed to turn that question into a reality, creating a career that was equal parts strategy and chaos. Sonnen wasn't just another skilled wrestler in the UFC. He was a craftsman on the mic with a gift for saying things that left people stunned. Early on, he realized that winning fights wouldn't be enough to move the needle. If he wanted to stand out, he needed to become the biggest voice in the room, and no one could ignore him. Sonnen's verbal wars, particularly with Anderson Silva in Brazil, made him a household name overnight. Calling out Silva wasn't the shocking part. Fighters challenged champions all the time. It wasn't just his words that stirred controversy. Sonnen's positive drug test for elevated testosterone levels came during the peak of his career and was a major blow to his credibility. Then, revelations about his involvement in a money laundering scandal pushed fans even further away. Some viewed the trash talk as part of his act, but these legal and moral issues felt real, not performative. Chael Sonnen was unforgettable, but for many fans, not in the way he had hoped. Number 3, Jon Jones. How does one of the most talented fighters in history lose the respect of so many fans? Jon Jones entered the UFC as a prodigy, quickly establishing himself as a dominant force in the light heavyweight division. With a mix of athleticism, creativity, and fight IQ, Jones looked untouchable. He dismantled legends like Mauricio Shogun Rua and Lyoto Machida, leaving no doubt he was one of the greatest fighters anyone had ever seen. Outside the cage, Jones's actions started to paint a very different picture. A failed drug test ahead of UFC 200 shocked fans who believed they were watching a clean, disciplined athlete. Then came the arrests, including a 2015 hit-and-run incident where he fled the scene after injuring a pregnant woman. Adding to the pile were more failed tests, fights being canceled, and run-ins with the law. For many fans, his apologies felt repetitive, almost rehearsed, as the same scenarios played out again and again. His story is now a constant reminder of how talent alone isn't enough to secure trust or admiration. Number 4, Ronda Rousey. What happens when a pioneer in women's MMA becomes the object of fan frustration? Ronda Rousey was not just a dominant force in the cage. She was the fighter who brought women's MMA into the mainstream. Her rise seemed unstoppable. Armed with a devastating armbar and a fiery, confident personality, she demolished opponents in record time and became a global phenomenon. Rousey wasn't just winning, she was redefining what it meant to be a female athlete in combat sports. From late-night talk shows to movie roles, her crossover stardom was undeniable. But the aura of invincibility didn't last. That image was shattered when Holly Holm exposed her vulnerabilities with a brutal head kick knockout at UFC 193. Fans who had celebrated her dominance watched in disbelief as Rousey's reign came crashing down in a matter of seconds. The Ronda, who had once talked so much about mental toughness, seemed unable to endure the pressure. Much of the backlash stemmed from the way she framed herself during her career.
Fans began to revisit her past rivalries, like the one with Miesha Tate, and saw arrogance in her dismissive treatment of opponents. Number 5. Tito Ortiz. How did the UFC's first trash-talking star become one of its most hated? Tito Ortiz was one of the first fighters to inject personality into MMA, and it worked. Early on, his dominant performances as a light heavyweight champion matched the flair of his persona. He was more than just a fighter, he was a showman. With his signature flaming shorts, sunglasses, and intense stare-downs, he helped turn the UFC from a niche sport into a pop culture phenomenon. During a nearly 5-year period without a win, his pre-fight trash talk started to feel more like empty promises. Fans grew frustrated as his bravado no longer matched his performances and interest turned to criticism. His infamous feud with Dana White only poured fuel on the fire. While their public battles over contracts and personal insults kept Ortiz in the spotlight, they also made it hard for fans to see him as a team player.
Number 6. Josh Costchek. Can one fighter's attitude make them the ultimate villain? For Josh Costchek, the answer seemed obvious. His time on the first season of The Ultimate Fighter introduced fans to a fighter whose cockiness rubbed people the wrong way from the start. While the sport was still growing, Costchek stood out not only for his wrestling but for his over-the-top trash talk and needling personality. Costchek's rivalry with George St. Pierre became the defining moment of his transformation into MMA's heel. The build-up to their fight was a showcase of Costchek's trash-talking ability, targeting GSP's quiet demeanor and what Costchek claimed to be a lack of killer instinct. But the insults aimed at GSP didn't spark admiration, they sparked boos. Costchek's reputation only worsened with time. His behavior as a coach on The Ultimate Fighter didn't win over naysayers, as his constant trash talk and pranks painted him in an even worse light. Number 7. Conor McGregor. What happens when the biggest star in MMA crashes under the weight of their own success? Conor McGregor's rise wasn't just fast, it was explosive. His knockout power and razor-sharp wit turned him into a global sensation. Fans couldn't get enough of his pre-fight predictions, outrageous press conferences, and relentless self-confidence. But as his fame soared, so did the controversies. The turning point came in Brooklyn during the infamous bus attack ahead of UFC 223. McGregor hurled a dolly through a window, injuring fighters and sending shockwaves through the MMA world. It was a stunt that crossed every line, leaving fans split between admiration for his fearlessness and disgust for his recklessness. Number 8. Sean Strickland. How does a fighter's brutal honesty make them both loved and hated? Sean Strickland has managed to stand out in the UFC not just for his fighting skills, but for his complete lack of a filter when speaking publicly. Whether in post-fight interviews, press events, or even casual conversations, Strickland is known for saying exactly what's on his mind, no matter how controversial or polarizing it may be. Fighters and fans alike have criticized his comments for crossing the line, with some considering his words damaging to the image of MMA as a professional sport. Publications like Essentially Sports have even listed him as one of the most hated and trolled fighters in the UFC, emphasizing that his personality plays a major role in how he's perceived. Number 9. Brock Lesnar. Can an outsider ever truly win over loyal fans? Brock Lesnar's UFC debut had people talking before he even threw a punch. Coming from the world of professional wrestling, Lesnar arrived with massive hype and an equally massive frame, but his WWE background created an immediate divide among MMA fans. Many saw him as an outsider, a showman whose career in scripted entertainment had no place in a sport built on discipline and real competition. Lesnar wasted no time making headlines, but not always in ways that earned admiration. These outbursts reinforced the perception that Lesnar was more interested in creating drama than respecting MMA's culture. His brash behavior, which some saw as a carryover from WWE, alienated fans who prized sportsmanship over spectacle. And number 10, Aljamain Sterling. How does a championship belt become a lightning rod for criticism? Aljamain Sterling knows the answer better than anyone. His bantamweight title win at UFC 259 was unlike anything the sport had seen. After being hit with an illegal knee by Peter Yan, Sterling won the belt via disqualification, an outcome that instantly sparked debate. Fans weren't celebrating his victory, they were questioning it. The backlash wasn't just a ripple, it was a tidal wave. Social media exploded with criticism, calling Sterling's reaction to the illegal strike exaggerated and accusing him of acting to secure the win. From that moment, Sterling wasn't just a champion, he was a walking controversy. These fighters show that fame and perception in MMA are as unpredictable as the fights themselves. Some, like Brock Lesnar, saw fan disdain evolve as their actions overshadowed their accomplishments.
Others, like Colby Coington, actively leaned into controversy, reshaping their careers while alienating large parts of the fan base. Every story reveals how fragile admiration can be, with a single action or decision flipping public opinion. Let us know in the comments, who do you think deserves the title of the most hated fighter? No matter how controversial, these fighters have left a mark on MMA history that can't be ignored.